Okay. Good evening, it's 6:31. Welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Financial Planning Committee. I'm John Rappa, Chair, and I want to call this meeting to order. So we'll do a roll call. Ryan Maines. Present. Ken Picard.
Here.
Susan Satori.
Present.
Mike Shaka.
Here.
Scott Stockland.
Here.
John Rappa. We have a quorum. Thank you. First order is approval of meeting minutes, October 28th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Approved, thank you. Easy peasy. Update on the White Cliffs and special town meeting. Jason or Stephanie, would you care to give us a brief update, please?
Yes, so they have been very busy. For those of you that don't know, we changed from a lease situation to a purchase situation. They have their general contractor hired. They are in between two architects right now, and they're waiting on the proposal to be signed by the environmental contracting company. We were just out at the site last Friday. We met with a historic preservationist who went through the property again. We have a couple we're working with right now. We just want to make sure that it's timely, whatever the preservationist can do. For instance, Historic New England was a little bit behind schedule, I'd say. They didn't have a quorum, and we can't put our eggs in just one basket. So we're discussing a lot of those details with Mass Historic Commission as well as the preservationist, and we are on our way. Everything's going good.
Any thoughts or discussion, especially with the select board, about either special town meeting or the annual town meeting dates?
So, no, I actually was just speaking with Elegant Banquets today. We're not going to say anything until we start to get traction with, the historic preservationists. They meet with their contractors. Everyone has to be on the same page. And then we need that written language incorporated. We need the consent of the Mass Historic Commission. So there's a few things to do before we can actually get to the point that we're ready for our special town meeting. And if it is merged in with the spring town meeting, then so be it.
Has he met with his banks? Has he picked?
Oh,
a bank?
yes. It's actually between two.
It's still to two?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the people that were going to go and check and see what kinds of problems were on site, has anything come forward that looks to be a concern to him?
The concern isn't so much in what they're finding, it will be the cost. So that's what he's waiting for, yes. They might actually go back to thinking about taking the historic credits. They were speaking to the preservationist out Friday, and, he's like, it's years ago, I know you did it. It lengthened your time and your process, but, things have gotten much quicker, and, with the right consultant, you will be able to do this.
Being naive to this process, what does that mean by he would take on the historical credit?
So they would get mass historic tax credits from preserving a historic building. So that denotes to tax savings for them. They're working with, right now, Albert Rex is one of the people who is very familiar with the White Cliff. So I don't know whether or not they're choosing him to go this route, but we will
Okay.
see.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Good work, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good, thank you.
Have we, put a price in front of them yet?
Well, they know for a fact that we're looking at least the amount that we put into it. So a lot of the conversation will be based upon what they're finding in environmental cleanup. But they know at a minimum 2.5 million is what we're looking at. And it was the CPA money that we borrowed plus any capital costs that were brought on by the town.
I mean, do we get an appraisal on the property before?
Yeah, we decided we don't need to go that route. it could actually probably hurt us rather than help us, so.
Okay.
We have an assessment, we have market value around, it's hard because the deed restriction actually takes away from value. So comparatively speaking, if we got 2.5, I think would be good, but.
And the 2.5 encompasses some of the monies that we've had to put to
All
keep
of
it going.
Any money that we have put
So
into
it's not
this
just the
property.
purchase price.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Steph. Next item, School Department Capital Projects presentation. Greg and Company?
So I'll do a brief introduction and then exit stage left. And Keith and Becky will provide an overview. I thought I'd start just sharing kind of the process to develop our capital plans. First, we have a capital planning subcommittee of the school committee. It works closely with a central office leadership team to develop capital priorities. Keith also works very closely with the facilities managers, both in Northborough and at the high school, to develop the plans. The Northborough committee approved the capital plan at its November 5th meeting, and tomorrow evening, the capital plan for the regional district will be voted on at the school committee meeting. In terms of our facilities, I think it's important to talk about the scope of our facilities. Including Algonquin, we have 6 facilities that we maintain. Our oldest facility is the Peasley School, which was constructed in 1962. And we've had a few updates, a new roof, and that is something we're moving forward with, working with MSBA to think about the next vision or version of a school that would be designed. Our next oldest school is Melican. It was built in 1971. And then we have Proctor, which was renovated in 1997. Z, which was renovated in 1998. Lincoln, which was 2015, so it's our newest school in Northborough. And then Algonquin Regional High School was an addition renovation in 2008, which was completed. In terms of scale, combined, all of our facilities total 700,000 square feet. In terms of scale, the Amazon facility up on the hill is 600,000 square feet. So that gives you the scale and scope of what we're maintaining on an annual basis. And there are capital needs that we will communicate this evening to you and answer any questions that you have. With that said, I'll turn it over to Keith and Becky to dive into the details.
Great, thank you, Greg. So tonight I did prepare some slides for us to review. Really, the presentation is in 2 parts. Like Greg said, we have our K-8 capital request for FY27, which will be the first set of slides. And then the second set of slides will transition over to the projects for Algonquin Regional High School. And like Greg said, I do want to thank Bud Richardson, our facilities manager for the Northborough schools, and Mike Gorman, our facilities director for Algonquin, in helping me prepare this. They did a lot of work to make sure we have good quality cost estimates, not only for things that are immediately on the horizon, but down the way as far as the planning that we try to do when we look 3, 6, 10 years out for the buildings. And like Greg said, the buildings are a very important asset to not only the schools, but to the town in general. And we hope that this plan really reflects that commitment to the things that are the priorities for the upcoming year, and then looking forward down the road. So the slides that I'm going to share today are the entries for the FY27 capital plan. And part of your packet that Jason shared also kind of shares the outward look of where it goes for whether it's a 6-year or even farther than 10. So I'll start with Northborough K-8. The first project is an all-school investment. for technology and basically classroom presentation system upgrade. This is year 2 of this. We did begin some of the work at Melican last year. This next installment of $75,500 will probably likely be all dedicated to the Melican School to bring some continuity. The image shows what existed prior, a projection system on a cart to a very small screen, really did not have the type of adaptability that we'd like. So that first request for $75,500 is to improve that. Later in the slideshow, I do show what the end result is. Algonquin did have a significant project last year that we were able to fund, and we're seeing the immediate benefits of that coming forward. So I'll share that a little. So this is the before. The after will be later in the presentation. The second, we've done a lot of work in planning behind the scenes for our surveillance and security system. There has not been continuity with this system. Each school is kind of independent in their own way. So we've worked hard with our consultants to come up with a plan for all 10 schools. A lot of the work, a lot of the detail of it will be shared in executive session with the school committees, and we'll be able to share out as much as we can. But this would be the first installment of a 6-year plan to bring all of the K-5 schools up to really the state-of-the-art security system, which would include cameras, access controls, and different types of interfaces that we can use across all buildings. Specifically for the Proctor School, I did circle the 4 rooftop units. The 2 in the foreground service the gymnasium, and the 2 next to each other service the cafeteria. 1 in each space has either failed or very close to near failure. And this would be a 2-year plan. Our goal is to replace those that are on their way out or already out of service with 2 units for the upcoming year for a total of $300,000, and then for FY28 replace the other 2, so a total of 4 units over the course of the 2-year timeframe. Playground repairs, we did invest in our playgrounds this past year, mostly for the Proctor School. We did do some inspections in 2024 that resulted in some infrastructure improvements that needed to be made. This is the next installment of that. What this does add, though, is that we had not only elements of the playground, but the field that the students use at Lincoln Street. There was a tree that unfortunately came down a couple summers ago, one of the tough storms, and the result of that is a barren area that is mostly just dirt right now. So when we were in our dry spell there, especially in September and October, you would drive by the Lincoln Street School and students would be playing out in the playground, and there'd be dust all over the place. So working closely with Principal Callahan, we're really trying to come up with a plan not only to fix that space, but also some improvements to the elements that are part of the playground at Lincoln Street. And the Z is a continuation. We do have identified through that inspection process a few elements that could use some replacement. So the total request for the 2 schools would be $60,000. The largest item on the K-5 capital plan is the replacement of the Z school roof. As you might be aware, last year we did ask the town to support a $100,000 investment to go through the feasibility and schematic design as part of the MSBA's accelerated repair program. I've been working closely. We were assigned an owner project manager and a designer and architect for this project to get us to this point. Even as late as this afternoon, I was working with the project manager to really fine-tune what the estimates would be. The latest estimates as of the last publication that we've shared is around $8 million, and that's what the summary that is laid out here represents. So just so people are aware, the Accelerated Repair Program was a competitive process that we engaged in and were welcomed into. And the goal is that we would see a considerable reimbursement for the grand total of the roof. The images to the right do show that the roof at Z was definitely a good candidate for the program. It was a 1998 build, but it was a ballasted roof with stone, and that is simply not a good application for New England weather. And as you can tell, there's been growth and a lot of structural dysfunction to the roof that has led to it failing in a lot of spaces.
That would be replaced with just a rubber membrane roof?
Yes, Mike, it would. So there are two sections of it. The flat portion would be just a plain flat membrane roof with some structural improvements underneath to really improve the drainage. There are 3 pitch sections to the roof, and the proposal would be for a metal roof, which would be solar ready, like we did at Lincoln and Peasley.
What's the square footage of that roof?
It's about 42,000 square feet for the flat portion and 16,000 square feet for the pitched.
And the Lincoln School, is that a metal roof?
Partially. So the pitch
Where it's
sections,
pitched.
yeah, and those were replaced during the 2015 renovation, but the flat portion of the roof at Lincoln Street was not replaced during the 2015 renovation.
Keith, this is a huge amount of money.
Yes, it is.
Even with the estimated cost, it's still over 4 mil. Whew, it's going to be a tough sell.
Talk to me about the building itself. Part of it is an add-on. And so the original building is what age and what kind of roof? And is that where you're seeing this old stone?
Really a combination, Susan. So I would say we're not seeing failure in any one particular area, which is making it kind of interesting. It has been a combination of both the pitch sections and the flat sections. I think we have had a couple places where, and actually the top image shows it, we have water against the masonry there for that mezzanine level. And that has also created some damage that would be part of the work that we would do to stabilize that area. What I'm learning from the OPM and the designer is that it's not just simply the roof itself. There's curbing that goes around the roof to make sure better drainage is obtained and better structure underneath with insulation and things of that nature. And that is adding, John, to the price going up.
Will you have these consultants coming in and making a presentation to the school committee?
It is it is possible.
If you do that, could we be at least extended an invitation in case, so we could just hear what the professionals
Get
are
into the
saying about
detail.
it? Yes.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Now, could you also explain the MSBA process
Sure.
for roofs and where it's going for the future?
Absolutely, and please, Becky, interject if you need. So what we're learning about the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program is it's very saturated right now with a lot of projects. Peasley, as you know, is also part of the core building program. This is a different one for accelerated repair, for smaller items, roof, HVAC, boilers, things of that nature. What we are learning, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that because of the saturation of projects that we have, it would be a number of years before they would even entertain additional projects. And what we've learned from a variety of statement of interest processes that we've engaged in with before is that it's really dependent on the number of projects that submit, and then they determine the age of the roof that they're going to consider. So that's been one of the variables that we've tried to weigh, and we feel that with a 1998 roof, we just hit that threshold of being old enough, coupled with the amount of repair that it needs. That's why it was a good candidate.
So this was the reason for striking at this point in time?
Absolutely.
Okay, even with the economy the way that it is. And can you also
We've
speak to
submitted
this?
multiple times
Yes.
prior to this. This is the first time that it's actually been invited into the process.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
It was denied a couple times.
Yes.
okay, good, I'm glad you've,
Persistent.
Yes.
yes, I'm glad you've
So-
been aggressive with that. Can I just ask one more question to this?
You got it.
Okay. Solar panels, I know you're doing them in all the schools.
Yes.
Is that also a reason for wanting to push at this? Are you seeing good savings with your solar panels?
Just started, Peasley and Proctor, Lincoln Street and Proctor just came online a couple months ago. And what we've learned at Algonquin is we do need a full 12-month plus cycle to really understand where our
Okay.
savings are coming in. So the switch was literally just flipped on a few short months ago.
No pun
Okay.
intended.
Yep, none at all.
Sorry, John.
But one of the things that made this project attractive to MSBA is that we have been working with our solar consultant, and the whole idea was that this roof would be solar ready. Solar is not part of the project. It would be part of something we would do after.
And I guess just a follow-up to that, it's like with anything, like with grants that the municipal side will go for. If you turn away this project at this point in time, you will be long in the queue,
That
way
is
back
correct.
in the queue. Okay,
That would be our understanding.
okay.
So this is contingent on the reimbursement.
Correct.
any guesstimate in terms of how far out you might have a success in getting that reimbursement? Is it a year or two or more? In
So what
terms of,
happens
in
as the
terms of
pro-
getting that and then starting the project?
So the reimbursement happens as the project goes along. So as we incur costs, the OPM that we're working with is submitting to the MSBA what those costs are, and then they're calculating what our reimbursement is of those particular costs. So on a monthly basis, or however often that we're submitting to the MSBA, we will see reimbursement. We've already started to see reimbursement for the Peasley project, in fact, so.
We're just in the infancy stages in all of this. You guys have a lot more work to do. We have a lot of work to do, talking to all the departments and figuring out how we put all the puzzle pieces together. Do you have any inclination or any desire to potentially do this as an override for this particular project? Because I think we don't have enough free cash for every single item that is in this year's capital improvement plan.
I think that's a question for the
Yeah, I mean,
town. Yeah.
I would share that this is a good opportunity for the community of Northborough. There is a need to replace the roof. I think it would be a debt exclusion. It wouldn't be an override, it'd be a debt
Okay.
exclusion, separate warrant article to bond and fund this particular project. This scale of this project far exceeds, again,
Okay.
cash reserves to fund these types of projects.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, so I mean, again, we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit.
I know, but they're
w-
here
Within
and-
the, within the capital plan, I mean, we have a total of requests of $15.6 million. We've established last night that our free cash plan was supported, where 3.8 million of free cash could be applied to the capital plan. Using all these other funding sources, including assuming 50% reimbursement, which I'll refine it to the numbers that you're using now. But that leaves about $5.5 million to either borrow or not, but this would be an excellent candidate for borrowing with a debt exclusion.
Okay. All right.
Jason, we
And
borrowed.
I'll say more further on the MSBA program. When the school building program changed over and, Algonquin went through being part of both worlds of the school building program, the dedicated penny in the sales tax that goes to the school building fund, and then reimbursing people as we go along, has saved both the state and the town's considerable interest expenses by not having to borrow the entire cost of the program, and then the state's not having to reimburse us for a share of interest. So it's actually been a really advantageous program for the state and the schools across the state.
It was really hard with Algonquin the other way, so, yeah, I remember.
We borrowed on the two roof jobs on the other two K through 8 schools, I believe, right?
I'd have to look back, John.
I think we
I don't
did.
remember. I think we did, yeah.
I'm only jumping ahead on this because it is the most significant number in the capital improvement plan for this given year. And so I think it's going to draw a lot of interest.
The 8 million pound gorilla in the room?
So where did that estimate come from? Because, I mean, it seems very excessive. I mean, I'm going to consult with a guy I know who has.
And Mike, I'm asking the same questions. I work most closely with the OPM that was assigned to us, as well as the designer. As we've been meeting with the designer, they've come out and done a lot of assessments of the roof itself and of the building, looking at a variety of different scales. I'm eager to get their final budget and their final assessment of what they say. And that's going to be something that we will absolutely review with the school committee and then share when I have more of the detail.
And the architectural firm was assigned to us by
That's correct,
MSBA.
yeah.
So this is a firm that has been vetted by MSBA and does multiple
Good point.
projects. They actually were one we looked at for the Peasley project, and they did the design for Algonquin as well.
So relative to the horizon that this committee has, relative to reviewing these projects and eventually voting for a recommendation on them and then town meeting, where do you think you are in the timeline between now and a committee vote at least?
Well, that's a very, very good point. What I'm anticipating is that with before the Christmas break, we will know definitively what the budget will be for that. And then we'll have the appropriate conversations to share that and hopefully answer as many questions as can pop up. That's what I'm anticipating. We did have to extend that deadline because of some of the complications that the designer found in building the schematic design. But we're now on track, and MSBA has accepted that timeline with the extension. So I feel like we're in good shape, and I got a good word from the OPM earlier today that we're on target for those final estimates in December.
When we're talking about timelines, though, we all know that you do have to take it forward to your school committee for their questions, concerns, and support. So to be realistic, they don't meet until the beginning of January. We probably wouldn't get a definitive answer from you until the beginning of January.
So we'll meet at the December meeting, which is, I believe, December 3rd. So we'll hopefully have the cost estimates and better information at that meeting to present to the school committee.
Okay, so you don't have to wait till
No,
the
so
break?
we hope
We
to
hope
have,
so.
the school committee,
Okay.
weigh in and support the project or not support, and then
Okay.
at that point, we can update, you folks.
All right, great, thank you.
Sorry.
I just would ask, we also, the architects and designers would be happy to
Yes.
come present to you as well, so that is an open invitation.
Good, thank you.
Sorry, just really quick too, on the MSBA portion here. So I know they assigned you the architect. Have we gone out and consulted anybody else? Because my concern with a lot of these, and this is gonna sound kind of conspiracy theorist, like Mass Save, right? Like they have their contractors they use.
Yep.
They charge twice as much as a regular guy. And they take essentially the entire rebate that you're gonna get, put it in their pocket, and then charge what they normally would have. And when I see this number, I'm just like, I can't reconcile $8 million for a roof.
No, yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble with it as well. I mean, I just replaced, maybe it was about 6 years ago, so there's a little bit of inflation since then. But I replaced a 6,500 square foot rubber membrane roof. It didn't have, the stone and some of those other expenses, but I did it for south of 40,000. So if you take, multiple of that of, times 10 for this size difference, now you're at, 400,000. Call it double, 800,000. Call it
Yeah.
quadruple.
I
I mean, we're still,
I would just share, I hear your concern. I think this is a lot of money. I will share, we have partnered with MSBA and other projects. They're very
I just
concerned.
want to say we can't hear you on the stream.
I'll come to the podium. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Commercials.
We partnered with MSBA on a number of projects, and, they've vetted processes. They do roofs and HVAC systems and core building projects. Their goal is to use the money that they're raising per this surcharge to invest back in schools. It is a cost savings. If we were to go out and do this roof without MSBA's partnership, it would cost the town more money. So, although it seems like a large number, and it is, it's, we're relying on the experts to go through this process. And MSBA has multiple firms and designers that they vetted, that they have criteria to evaluate, and they assign those to districts across the Commonwealth who enter this program.
The last roof, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, to support you, Greg, again, this is just an estimate. It doesn't really matter until the bids come in. The bids are gonna dictate what the price is, not the estimate.
sure, but what's approved and what we're putting forth toward town meeting would be based on the estimate, not based on the actual, right?
Right, but if it's not all spent, it's returned.
But, yeah, but that's,
So the goal is to get a good cost estimate from
Right.
the designer. The closer to the actual article or vote, the better the number is. So again, we hope to have the number come December to share with the school committee and the community.
When is the last time you did a roof project with MSBA?
We haven't.
I think the last project was not the MSBA, it was the old version of MSBA, it was the Peasley roof, the metal
Okay.
roof.
And then you recently did some roof repairs due to ARPA funds, correct?
So the roof at Proctor is a new roof, and that was funded through ARPA. So again, that's a smaller footprint. And then the metal roof had been replaced, I think, 5 years earlier. So we replaced the membrane, and I believe the total cost of just the membrane at the time was we'll get the exact number, but it was,
I think the numbers are important, but I think it's also important the town hasn't seen a process for a roof through MSBA in a while, because we were lucky enough to have some ARPA funds to get it done the last go-round.
yeah, and it's all about timing too. So it does take some planning and timing to get in line with submitting statements of interest. We would have with Proctor, we just didn't have the time because of the immediate need.
Thank you.
Presumably, this is prevailing wage.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but prevailing wage, though, I mean, that's talked about a lot, and I don't know if I have it here, I may, but I printed out in anticipation of this discussion, not this discussion, but in general, prevailing wage. This is 35 pages of all the prevailing wage based on 2025 rates. I'll tell you what, my HVAC guy that's not prevailing wage is 50% higher than these rates. So this is not crazy. These rates are not, so I don't, that boat doesn't float for me.
Yeah. I guess the short story is we look forward to get some tighter estimates on this in the next month or so, right?
That's the hope.
I guess I'd be curious, if we could perhaps entertain getting estimates outside of MSBA and just see if it's out to, just the general markets and let the competitive juices flow and, have an RFP, process to see what else the market can provide. Because, to Ryan's point, I tend to be a little bit of a skeptic when, you get these 50% rebates on Mass Save and, you're spending $20,000 on a mini split and, they're just padding it.
Steph, is that something, what Mike just said, is that something that Scott Charpentier's group would do, for example? Get a bid outside of the MSBA?
So, I mean, I think we would need funding
Oh,
to hire the appropriate people to do the level of study and work.
Okay.
To take quotes and estimates. So
Okay.
I think, we're happy to do that. That is not something that we have in our budget to go out and do it in a way and detailed and will give us accurate numbers.
When you say you'd be happy to do it, you mean you would bring it forward to the school committee to see if something they would be willing
Yeah, I mean, so
to
this-
entertain?
I mean, so we had to fund, it was $100,000?
Correct.
To get to this level of detail, to get a good cost estimate and to get the design. So,
Yeah.
the firm,
To support Greg, there's a whole process to get a qualified vendor. You gotta advertise, you gotta interview. It's gonna add so much time. I've worked both private and public projects. Public costs more money because there's so many steps you gotta do. Prevailing wage, I agree with you, prevailing wage. Prevailing wage is not the demon everybody thinks it is. It's just the way it is, because you're gonna have, if you're gonna get another estimate, you gotta get another firm. That means you gotta advertise for that firm. You gotta interview everybody who's gonna apply. And then you gotta come up with a specification for them that they can look at. And when you select a designer, you don't select based on their price. You gotta select based on their qualifications. And you negotiate a price afterwards. So it is much harder. The state's done all the work. My recommendation is use what the state has and just go with it. And rely on the bidding to be what your price is gonna be. Because even with the fire station, they're coming in under what we appropriated, right? And it's because of the bidding process.
Yeah, well, I guess I'd argue, the police station example, where, originally it was, 470,000, then all of a sudden.
I'm gonna agree with you there. We didn't get good bids.
Yeah.
It wasn't bid. It wasn't estimated. They threw something out, something was taken off, and they said, well, that's be the price. That's what was done.
And then-
It wasn't estimated.
Magically, when, the new allocation of funding comes out, magically, we get a someone that says, I'll
I'm not
take
gonna
it,
argue that.
you know.
I'm not gonna argue that at all.
And I mean, I
That was smoke and mirrors.
yeah,
It's
so,
terrible.
so, I mean,
That was a different process and a different time and a very chaotic kind of administration at that
Yeah,
point in
but-
time.
I mean, if it would be helpful, we'd be happy to send some information about MSBA, the process they use, you know, how they select their firms to partner with districts.
Yeah.
So you have that. I think that would be a good starting point. And again, I think having the designer and come out and present to you folks, and answer really specific questions.
Right.
They're the experts we're relying upon to do this work. We're not roofing experts.
what was the work product that we got for that $100,000?
We're going through it now, so.
Oh, this
Yeah,
was,
right.
this is the work product
So
that we
the
got?
the design, the type of roof, the drawings, and the cost estimate.
That they haven't gotten quite yet.
Correct.
Yeah, that they haven't quite gotten, and that's why they're inviting us to potentially have them come here versus going to the school committee. Can you tell me, if we walked away from this project at this point in time, what would that do with your relationship with MSBA for the Peaslee School project? Do you think they would,
So there's no prejudice when
Okay.
you walk away from a project. I think, as Keith mentioned, when you submit, you enter back into the process, you're competing against a different pool of submissions. So it's really around who's submitting in future years and what those projects look like compared to us. And if they meet the criteria that MSBA sets and we don't get invited in. But there's no prejudice for cities and towns to walk away from MSBA funding,
for another project that they have in the pipeline already?
you know, and it just, and then
We
you
hope.
figure out another pathway.
Okay.
Good. This is informative. Keith, thank you. Okay.
No, my pleasure.
Want to
No,
continue?
I'm done. No, I got more. No.
Yeah.
So on a smaller scale, we are looking towards the Melican Middle School. That has been a topic for the committee for a while of how to do those improvements. And that Greg opened with, Melican is a school that we are looking at after the Peaslee School for some more significant renovations, but what's going to get us there? So we've had a lot of conversations with Principal Carb, working and talking to teachers, and there are a couple of projects that are this one coupled with a few others to really improve the aesthetics of the building and the overall experience for students. So this is a picture of the old wood shop room that is now being converted into a guidance classroom, but it needs help. It has a basic cement floor. The dust collector is still a topic of conversation in the corner here, but we really would like to do a renovation to that space because the program that is being put in place there has been extraordinary for the students. So this would be the start of that, as well as doing potentially some painting and some ceiling tile replacement.
So
for the
if
50,000.
I may, I have a problem with doing painting and ceiling tiles. That's not capital, that's maintenance.
Fair enough.
The school should be doing that on its own.
Fair enough.
Right, they ask for capital money, that's not appropriate for, at least
Fair
in my
enough.
opinion.
Understood.
Inappropriate.
And I think what we'd focus on with this one especially would be the floors, and the removal of this apparatus is where we're going to get the bulk of that. So between the combination of the flooring and some of the infrastructure that's in the space, we're going to be soaking up the vast majority of that 50 million.
Is this a project, if things get really tight, that you'd be willing to defer?
I think so. I'm talking to Principal Carb. The space is functional right now. There's no safety issues per se. It would be something that could possibly be deferred.
I guess the struggle that I have with these types of projects is, we look at this price tag of $50,000 or last year, $60,000 for that cement, the step that came off at Z School on the loading dock. I mean, these are very high numbers, and it begs the question of why can't we hire staff as full-time equivalents that are part of our, DPW team or whatever, whatever bucket they fall into, and you get a full-time equivalent for, $75,000 all in, and they have the skill set that they can do jobs like this, and they bang this out in a couple of weeks, and then we've got them for the other 50 weeks to do all kinds of other projects.
Well, we have a facilities manager under DPW, but they've done projects where they brought people in from, was it Assabet to do
Yep.
certain construction projects?
Correct, yep.
So this might be something like that. I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah, and that's great if we can get creative in that way. But when I see, these types of numbers for, I mean, I don't know how many person hours this work would take, but, that's the question I have for all of these types of projects. I mean, everyone can yell prevailing wage, but if you look at this and you tell me, well, this is, 25 hours of work, well, you add the materials, add the hours, and do the math, and it's going to be hard to get to 50K.
Right.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if anyone knows, but like, what are the restrictions on Assabet using the students? Because like, I went to Waltham High. I did Intro to Collision Technology as a freshman, right? And we used to fix like DPW cars, police cruisers when they got like dents in them. And we would actually like, as part of our learning, would go in there, clean them up, hammer them out, and fix them up really, pretty well. So I'm just not sure like how far can we, is there anything that restricts the number of hours? All these students are looking for experience in the field. It seems like this is a good opportunity.
Scott Charpentier has articulated some of this, and when he comes in to see us, we can bring it up again. But they did do work at the field house at Memorial Field and a few other places, the water and sewer building over on South Street. They've done work there in the past, and he can articulate that in the context of at least this kind of project.
Do you tend to work with the municipal side to do projects like this within your school? Or is this, you work independently, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think just acknowledging that the town employees are very busy. It's not as if there's a lot of time. We do partner. They're very gracious in terms of their time. So, I think when they're able, they assist us. But for larger projects, it really hasn't been an opportunity for them to not, I mean, they haven't had the time and people power to be able to get to the school.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just curious, I mean, would it make sense? I mean, I think of like Fay School, they have, staff in-house that are, because they have the amount of work that comes up that it requires keeping someone busy, that the bench is completely utilized. So, if we can spend $100,000 on a body that can be utilized for these projects and knock them out, rather than spending $500,000 on, outsourcing it, that's a good use of money.
We should talk to Scott when he comes in. Okay.
Fair enough.
Should we?
Look, I
They
mean,
have their own facilities manager.
There's a facilities manager and there's the doers.
I just,
We need some doers here, not so much a
This is a
manager.
school
but-
department.
from a school department perspective.
Yes. Sorry.
We can't hire enough experts. We can't hire an engineer or a person who can do the drawings for a step replacement. And I know it sounds relatively simple just to replace steps at a school, but there's more that goes into just pouring concrete and fixing the steps. It's design, it's drawings, it's getting the procurement ready, and then it's doing the project. So these projects do take a level of expertise. And I agree with you, if we could hire a person who has all of that background and experience to do it, that'd be great, but I think we'd be hard pressed to do that. We would need an electrician on site, we would need, an architect and designer, so, I think it's looking at each project and what would we really need. I think people would be surprised at the level of expertise that's required.
I think what I have found over time, from when my kids were in school to the time now, that the custodian within the buildings would do a lot of these kinds of projects, but the level of technology that is now involved, that the custodians don't really have the knowledge base for, makes it harder to task them in the summertime to do some of these. So I can see why you're going outside to get somebody to come in and do
They are
it.
maintaining 700,000 square feet.
Right. Yeah.
Again, that's, the Amazon warehouse is 600,000 up on the hill. That gives you a sense of scale of what they're doing.
15 years ago, you had 2 janitors, now you got 1.
Yeah.
Right? So they get the same amount of workload, except they've doubled it to them. They don't have the free time to be doing this stuff. And to hire a teacher, then you have other liabilities, you got ethical issues about how was the guy selected, who was the person selected for the job. It isn't worth the liability.
I just will say one last thing, that economies of scale. So one of the benefits of, being the public schools of Southborough, public schools of Northborough and the region, that does give us some flexibility and cost sharing, where other communities don't have that opportunity. So, talking to Scott and talking to the Southborough and also focusing on the region, if there's an opportunity, I think we would be open to entertaining the idea.
Right, okay, all right.
Okay. So the next project does focus at Melican as well. We have partnered with National Grid on a couple of projects for energy efficiency. One of the things we've identified is a $300,000 project for the Melican School, and we would qualify for an approximate 30% rebate to improve the lighting, which would focus on classroom spaces and hallway spaces. This would be phase 1 of 2. So there is a project potentially slated for the upcoming years to take care of the difference of what would qualify for the lighting upgrade. This is a basic conversion from a fluorescent light to an LED fixture, which then would obviously gain us the efficiencies of that, which would pave down the road. We've done similar projects at the Z School and at Algonquin. So we haven't done many of these projects recently. The benefits with National Grid are soaking up a little bit, but we were fortunate that Melican would qualify for one of these National Grid projects for a 30% rebate.
Is this something you'd also be willing to defer, since you've got it out this year and next year, if this was just such a tight year?
I think our priority in terms of capital projects to move forward is the roof.
Yeah.
That is our, I think, the most significant investment and the investment we think would endure over time. So, we'll work with the school committee to prioritize these
Right.
requests, but
Right.
we do realize and recognize that it's a lot. So we'll have that information, but yes, these are what we propose to the school committee. This is what they approved. Now we're going to prioritize those with the committee.
I would appreciate that, because we do prioritize the projects, and I think it would be so much more helpful if you guys could do that yourselves. And then we could concur, and discuss whether or not, we concur with that, but please do that.
Just another quick question on this. So you've done LED lighting upgrades before. Approximately how much does it provide in savings, just so that way we can kind of have like a payback period?
There is a payback period. I think they're ranging, Becky, help me with this, anywhere between like a 3 to 6 year window is what we've seen on some of the projects, but they are yielding what they're supposed to in that energy savings. So it roughly comes down, I don't know what we've seen on average.
Yeah, we've seen definitely a reduction in terms of our usage.
Yeah.
It's hard to gauge with the cost savings, because while you were paying for
Prices are going up.
for the rates,
Well, it would
yes, but-
exponentially go up the other way
yes,
too.
yes,
Correct.
yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, if we could just.
Yeah.
We've been, and that's kind of made budgetarily things a little bit more manageable, because we have done these investments at Algonquin and at the Z School as an example. This would be the next major project.
It should be a simple math equation, right? You take the amount of, kilowatts that are there in the existing lights, and there's a cost per kilowatt hour, and you're going from that to the LEDs. So it should be fairly simple to
Yeah,
calculate.
it's the additional fees that get tacked
Yes.
onto the bill that's variable from month to month. So we have a fixed rate for.
Just hold your rate
Yes,
constant, and
yes.
that way we can get an estimate on it. I think it'll just make it easier to explain this if
It's all gonna be proportional, though.
It would be
Because
progressive.
this pays back, right?
It does. It absolutely has.
Is there, and did I hear, was there any kind of rebate, or there is? a
Yeah, so it is actually,
Massive.
so I want to make sure it was clear, it's actually a $300,000 project, but
Massive.
essentially the repayment plan would be a $200,000 repayment.
Yeah.
Can I just, in addition to the lighting, I think it would improve the overall environment.
Yes,
If you walk into Melican, the ballast bulbs, it's dark.
yes.
So one of the ideas is really to brighten up the hallways and the space. And I think that would make a big difference for kids and teachers. And this picture is, we shouldn't use that picture.
It's not a good picture. In fact, these bulbs and a couple of these ballasts were just replaced. So this was more of a dark hallway, when I remembered, and then I snapped that picture this morning.
Let's revamp it before we take the picture.
That's the after, but not LED. But honestly, that's a great point, Greg, and it is very important because that's been one of the things we've been focusing on is looking at Melican and the experience for kids. So lighting and improving that, this project would definitely yield that. And similarly, desks and chairs is something that we have not made a significant investment in. Principal Carver and I have been working together ever since COVID, really looking at different variations of how to do this, really looking at doing this over a 4-year term to replace and get uniformity with all the student desks and chairs in the building, and this would be the first leg of that. So we have mapped that out. I've gotten some quality estimates from some of our providers, which is helpful, and we are getting cost savings there, so we are looking for that over a 4-year period.
Is there any value to the existing desks, or is there an opportunity to donate them to a place in need or something like that? Where there's
Well, there are, so what's happening is that some of these desks, as they becoming, no longer fixable, we are salvaging a lot of those. So we are whittling down. You can see this classroom picture does have a hodgepodge of different versions. So a lot of them are beyond repair or beyond even donation. We have had conversations with different districts about that, depending on the condition, but it's likely that many of these would not be something we would donate.
Keith, was that 30K on each over 4 years?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you coming forward with a feasibility study in 2032? Or?
Yeah, it's a long way away.
It isn't, though.
It's not, right? Exactly. Yeah, so we've just started entertaining that conversation. Obviously, the focus right now is the Z roof and the Peasley project, but we also have in the back of our mind that Melican's not too far away, and it's on the
Because
horizon.
it seems like you're doing a lot of very important upkeep projects because this building has had nothing done to it for umpteen years. It's been sitting in the queue since 2000 with Peasley School. So you're still shooting for 32?
I think that's a conversation to have with the town and
Yep.
timeline and
Okay.
capital projects and debt levels.
I think it's important conversation to have, because if we're thinking about spending that kind of money, how much do we, I see a roof is in here and everything
Right.
else, yeah.
And those would be things that we want to consider, like Greg said, in the conversation with the town. One of the avenues that you can take is, do you try the accelerated repair, which we did at the Z School, versus going for the core project, which we did at the Peasley School. So those are the two buckets that are available now, and that's a good conversation to have with the town to see where we would land.
Okay.
And that rounds out the K-8, and now on to the Reg. We are celebrating the solar here at Algonquin. That's certainly been something we've invested in the last couple of years, and I do have 6 projects to share with you, and then Becky can share the assessment. Yep,
So
sorry.
Keith, just to jump back, because
Uh-huh.
I had saved it, and then we started talking,
Sure.
interjecting. So the roof unit replacements.
Yes.
What's the BTUs of those systems?
Oh, geez,
Or
I'm not 100% sure.
Any sizing information, any criteria?
I want to say between 5 and 7 ton, I think, per
5 and
unit,
7 ton?
I believe. But Mike, I'm going back to my role.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I won't hold you to it. I just want to, yeah, just curious. Yeah, the tonnage is fine, too.
Yep.
And those are just, those aren't mini split, right? Those
No,
are
they're
just
not. They're air
conventional. Yeah,
handlers
yeah.
for heat.
Air handlers, okay, okay.
Can we possibly take questions like that you don't have answers for through the chair, and he can submit them to you guys to get answers for us?
That'd be good.
Gladly.
And the parking lot, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
the next year. No, never mind.
Yeah.
The playground, that was the other one I had a question for.
Okay.
So that was Lincoln and Z, right?
Correct.
Did Lincoln's playground get replaced when the school got built, or was that?
It did.
So that.
Most of the work for Lincoln, there are a couple of pieces of equipment there that have not endured. Just from high use. That playground is used by the community quite consistently. So there are ones that, they're out of warranty, but they have not survived. So it's a lot of the sheathing. This is from Proctor, and this is an image of them, beyond that point. But we're seeing a lot of degradation of some of the sheathing at Lincoln Street. So keeping up with that and replacing a small item versus having to do the large item is really the goal of that, coupled with the grounds improvement that's necessary at Lincoln. That's what the 40 grand would cover.
And I'll just add, we are required to inspect all of our
Yes.
playgrounds annually, and some of the requests here this evening are from the
Inspections.
And the Z School wouldn't even really qualify, because it's a $20,000 repair unless you're lumping it in with this.
Our threshold's 25.
Right, oh,
Yeah.
Yes, Sue, I think we would conceive of this as being one consolidated article.
I'm just saying that,
Right.
you know, it's a maintenance issue really over there at that school. The Lincoln Street School gets a lot of use because it's used all summer long by the rec department's programs. So that playground is used all the time. On the weekends, people are always there. Does this qualify at all for any CPC funding, since Parks and Rec, it's kind of a park and a rec, you know, the Recreation Commission uses it? Is there any way to see if they might consider that it would qualify?
Where the fine line is there.
It would be up for them to
It's a
decide
cable
and tell
question,
us.
right?
It is, the
Original
rec
cable.
department uses it for the summer program.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't remember what year, it's years seem to blend together. What year did we do Lincoln School?
15.
It was 15? So okay, so 10 years ago,
Yeah.
11 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, I know, yeah, it is.
Did MBSA, and did the program actually reimburse you for the playground? I thought they didn't do playgrounds. Do they now do playgrounds?
Yes, yeah, that is part of.
Not then.
They don't do playgrounds, right?
Yeah.
We can find out definitively. We have had conflicting reports on that.
All right.
I was just thinking in terms of warranty, do they provide any kind of,
It was very, very limited, Mike. It was directly with the manufacturer in the contract. That's something we reviewed as part of this preparation. Unfortunately.
Good, okay.
On to the Reach.
On.
So this is the 6 projects that we've worked through, and like Greg has mentioned, we've done a lot of work with our subcommittee of the Regional School Committee for this, and will be sharing the full plan with the committee for their approval. So these projects and this plan, it has not been yet approved by the Regional School Committee. We're hoping and expecting that tomorrow evening. So the first project is not a new one. This is a project that has been deferred for a number of years. It is the curbing and the settling of the sidewalk out front of Algonquin, which goes from the cafeteria area all the way around to the performing arts area. And we did get updated estimates for this new proposal for the upcoming year. In places, this is, becoming a tripping hazard. It hasn't been deemed that yet, but it is close to becoming one for Algonquin. Second project, and this is a new project for the FY27, is that unit against the wall there is actually the chairlift for the Black Box Theater. That is the multi-tiered performance area off of the H-wing of Algonquin. It does not have access to the upper areas without use of the chair for people that have accessibility concerns here. So this unit is functioning presently. It's working well right now with our fingers crossed. It has had to be repaired multiple times. In the last inspection, it did not work, but so far we've been able to get it back on. A very temperamental unit, and the request is for a replacement so we can no longer need to cross our fingers and have that be available to the community.
Is that original to the Algonquin
It is.
project
It
way
is,
back
John.
when? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
It was a 2004 unit. So it's well beyond its useful life. Usually, what I learned from this when we were investigating it is anywhere between 10 to 15 years. That space, I don't believe, is used daily for this purpose, obviously, but to get it out to where we are at 20 plus is pretty favorable. Technology infrastructure. This is the end result of what we had shared for Melican. We did do a significant investment at Algonquin last summer with over 60 units installed, and this would be the delta of that to bring it up for all of the classrooms at Algonquin with a $200,000 investment. Very similar, replacing the technology in the room with a touchscreen that is viewable.
and just the touchscreen, the cost of the materials as opposed to the installation, any kind of breakdown?
Yeah, we do have that. I believe was it $3,500 per classroom?
I'd have to look.
I think it's pretty close to that, Mike. I'm not sure. We were able to, because we did purchase a number of these in bulk. We did the procurement for that. We were able to get favorable rates by doing more across the district.
So would this tie into the middle school?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would work on a procurement. It would be 3-form in Southborough and Northborough and Algonquin to get us the full amount and the full number.
Sorry, just, So it looks like for K through 8, we're spreading it out over the next
Correct.
6 years.
That's correct.
I think the-
What's our price discount opportunity versus loss versus, like, what are we looking at here?
There is some fluctuation. We want to saying it's about 5% a year is what we're gathering, just from talking to different vendors and looking at some of the trends. This technology is relatively new, and new to the market in the last, I'd say, 3 years is my understanding. And they are seeing a delta of about 5% a year.
And then in terms of our bulk buying discount, what are we seeing as our discount there?
I'm not quite sure. Do we
Well,
get
we're
anything?
going out to bid for things, so it
Right.
really is gonna be contingent or variable based on the bid.
Yeah.
And we're
And the size of
using-
the bid.
It used the statewide contract, so I'd have to go back and look. I don't know off the top of my head. We can get that.
And I'm sorry if you did say, what's the useful life of these? When does the technology just be outdated?
Great question. That was something we reviewed as part of this. We're looking at these being very viable, but with regular use, meaning daily use, 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years.
And I think the warranty reflects that too. Wasn't that part of the procurement? Becky, do you remember?
I don't
I believe so.
remember.
I think that was a conversation.
So
I
at the
had with-
middle school, you've got it out a number of years, you're
Uh-huh.
almost having to like,
That's what we're building. So
Constant.
it's what we're replicating it after is what we did with the Chromebooks and other types of devices. We are seeing that life expectancy, student use and things, and the replacement cycle is running anywhere between 5 and 7 years, depending on the equipment and use.
okay.
And this would be similar to that. We're modeling this after what we did with the Chromebooks for students, because we're one-to-one with students. Next, and this is a new, we had repaired the dust collecting system as part of the wood shop, and unfortunately, it has gone beyond repair. This was a repurposed 1970 piece of equipment that was part of the 05 renovation. So we are looking to replace a quite old relic in the wood shop, and we did get a updated quote for that for $45,000 to maintain the safety of the space.
So that's all the equipment or just the dust collector?
It's dust collector, and it's it's not dissimilar. I know this is kind of a fake drawing, but it is tied into a lot of the different conduit that gets to the collector itself.
And-
So it's not just simple.
And this is in wood shop, correct?
It is, correct.
Okay, because a lot of people, when we go to town meeting, they'll say, well, why do we have this? Because we have asked about. But can you speak to the fact that we are a comprehensive high school?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, between wood shop, metal shop, robotics, things of that nature, a lot, applied arts in a lot of different ways is happening at Algonquin. The space was designed for it. It's one of the best I've ever seen, to be honest, as far as a wood shop concerned. So the investment was made at a perfect time in the early 2000s, and we are seeing that result.
And we pride ourselves in being a
I would say
comprehensive high
absolutely.
school. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The one at Melican any good to send over?
No, unfortunately, and
That's what I said.
we already asked that question, and she did too. I wish. No, the components aren't compatible. I wish.
You enjoyed your
That would have been
time at
nice.
shop, huh?
Well, Ryan, you had the same thought I did, so that's a good thing. Caulking and trim repair, this is something we are seeing now that the building and its envelope is getting to be 20 plus years old. Just the caulking, the life expectancy of that is anywhere between 10 and 15. And in many areas, we are getting good use. But we have had different weatherization programs considered at Algonquin. This would be the first of a 5-year plan to start that, where we have the worst degradation of the caulking and different types of trim work would be replaced here, and it would be over a 5-year term. So because of the size of Algonquin, it's 350,000 square feet, and that's why I believe it would qualify for capital.
And is this out for your recommendation from Mike Gorman?
Yes,
Best guy around.
I'll tell him you said that. He's watching right now, actually.
Best guy, Mike.
Yeah, he's a good man, and he cares deeply. I think one of the things that I've learned about working with Mike for the last 5 years is he is very passionate about the school. He really cares about the student experience, and you see that not only reflected in this plan, but just the cleanliness of the school and the update and the maintenance
The
that's
best
done.
decision that the school committee made the minute that building was finished was hiring him, because he has kept that
Served
place
it
looking
for a long
top
time.
notch. Yep.
I guess the only comment I'd have is that this is another perfect example where you have $150,000 in capital expenditure where you could hire a full-time person to do caulking. I mean, it's caulking. You know, I'm not disputing any of these
No, I know you're
projects and
not. Yeah, I understand.
the legitimacy of them. It's, I feel like we overpay for things, and we've overpaid for years in many departments, and I feel that there's smarter ways to do this.
That's because there's profit, right? So we're hiring somebody out if we had someone on our
Well,
payroll.
exactly.
Cuts the
exactly,
profit, we could keep
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So along those lines, I mean, do we have a sense, or maybe Scott, when he comes, can kind of give us a census of the expertise that he has on staff?
Yeah, that's a question I've
Do
asked.
we have an electrician? Do we have a plumber? Do we have a
I believe
caulker?
he can. I recall him talking about some of this in prior meetings. I believe he can. So I think when he does come in, among the many projects he's got on his plate, things like this, we should discuss in terms of just the feasibility of having a facilities department reaching out to projects like this. from
Yeah.
Maintainability.
I have no problem with what any of you are discussing, but there are lines now, they are truly drawn between the autonomy of the regional school district. Because if we had an electrician that we were going to send over to Algonquin, I would want our town to be paid whatever it is Southborough's part. We did this many years ago. We were plowing the driveways of the snow. We were doing all sorts of maintenance issues over there, and part of the negotiations was that we would no longer do that as the town of Northfield, just because they're in our town. So we would have to be very careful how we
And I
did
can
this.
comment too, so the region acts as its own entity, like a town. So what you're seeing on the screen, for example, the $30,000 is the gross cost to the region. That is then assessed to Southborough and then Northborough. So when we, one way to look at it is it's 60-40% split. So again, part of the efficiencies we have is being a region and cost sharing some of these projects.
So,
And these people are in the business of educating children.
can I just add, there are, I mean, full disclosure, there are some services that the town does provide to the high school, and we do bill the high school for those services at the end of the year. That's one of our kind of end of the year
That was
exercises.
the negotiation
yeah.
we made when we did the four-year rolling average in that regional agreement, is that those things would be billed out.
Yeah, and they are, and I
Okay.
just want to confirm that practice has continued, and that's
Thank you.
an annual exercise.
I mean, it's not dissimilar to like intercompany, right? Like I've worked
Transfer
with
pricing.
organizations, yeah, to different divisions, and you can bill across, so I think it would be something similar. If we were to hire handy people, electricians, plumbers.
Yeah.
You have to also understand they cost us out at a different percentage by the number of kids that we have in our district versus Southborough. So it's just not an even split. Okay.
Okay.
Grounds tractor, this is something that this was original. The tractor that we have now is 20-plus years old, so this is, would be a replacement to that. It's on its last leg, and it would be for the grounds, obviously, at Algonquin. Quite expansive. We got a lot of compliments this spring from neighboring towns that come, and our grass fields, coupled with our turf fields, have certainly made a difference. So this is to keep up with that. This piece of equipment has been deferred a couple of times, but we are on a thread, and that's why it came forth as a FY27 request.
You have a robust booster club. Do they ever like to pay for things like this?
Not this big.
Okay.
So all of the lawn maintenance, we do ourselves, we don't sub that out?
We do sub it out, but there are portions of it that we take care of ourselves. So it's a combination of contracted with this, and they also use our equipment. It's a combination of that.
The subs use?
Yes.
Use our equipment?
Yeah, and it's built into the contract, so it's a very favorable contract. We went out to bid for that
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and we benefited greatly by having our own equipment.
So you're giving them the equipment and not having to pay for the bodies on staff?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And some of the technology that our partners are using as well, so it's a combination. And so I'm going to turn it over to Becky. So we have mentioned the capital projects and how things kind of lay out, and hopefully this side will give credence to that. So I'll turn over to Becky.
Sure, so the 6 projects that Keith has just spoken about, those total $477,000. And as Sue just indicated, the assessment for these capital projects is based on the 4-year average of our population, based on the October 1st number. number. So we use that number for both the capital assessment and then also for any debt assessment. So based on the October 1, 2025 student enrollment figures, we would be looking at a percentage for Northborough of 61.26% and then 38.74 for Southborough. So if we break down those 6 projects, Northborough's non-exempt assessment would be $292,210 for those projects.
Can I ask you a question? You came in a year or two ago and you were gonna like just have across the board capital projects, 350 a year, 375, something like that. Then you cut back on it last year. You're doing some
That's correct.
catch-up. Is that what this is?
Yeah, so the school committee made a decision to anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000 on an annual basis.
Is that a new decision?
It was a couple of years ago.
Okay,
So this is,
all right.
the decision to reduce the capital request last year was a result of a last minute insurance increase.
Okay.
So we pulled back on capital requests as a result of the impact
Okay.
of health insurance costs.
All right, great, thanks.
That concludes our presentation.
Any other questions, folks?
I have some questions. I would love to understand the division of property. We've talked about facilities, but not property. So we have fields in this town. Who maintains them? Who owns them or owns the responsibility to cut them, to maintain softball fields, baseball fields at the Milliken Middle School? I'm not bringing the high school into this, but we have irrigation systems at the Milliken Middle School. Who pays for the upkeep of the sprinkler systems and everything else, and the parts that have to be paid? How do you guys work this out?
Do you want to start that one, or you want me to? All right, so you're right. Algonquin is exclusively the region's responsibility. That's why we have a contract that goes out. When it comes to the fields and the grounds at Milliken, the best way I would describe it is we have a great partnership with the town and Scott's team. The fields themselves, the larger areas, whether they are at Milliken or at Peasley and some of the other buildings, Z as well, are maintained by the town and their crews, including some of the infrastructure like the sprinkler systems. We have been in conversation with Scott about that and looking at how that can be adjusted. We are right now exploring what needs to be done at the Milliken School for their ball fields. It does need some improvements there, and it is on our future capital plans. We've been trying to build that and work out a good way of getting it to where it needs to be. One of the things that I learned is that the fields themselves have not been able to be rented as much as they were previously, which is not offsetting some of that cost, and that's why we have had to renew the conversation. But for my understanding, and we've had preliminary conversations about it, is that the large-scale fields will be maintained by the town and Scott's team.
Even the irrigation systems, they
Yeah.
will take responsibility for the
We were
parts
talking about the
and-
Milliken one in particular, because that's the largest one.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we have been discussing, but certainly the mowing of that field is so large, and his crew is taking care of that.
All right. The reason I really want to discuss this, because I'm back to CPC funds. If recreation's using that, and that is a recreational area, why can't we go to the CPC and show them the softball field needs?
I don't think you can do maintenance with CPC funds.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you can't use maintenance.
Okay, well,
You can't do maintenance fees. It's got to be
What-
construction.
what
of
if they need a
some
new
kind.
one?
EPA funds
Yeah,
that are being applied.
yeah.
But if we could have that conversation to see if they would entertain any way of helping, even in regard to the irrigation and everything else. I don't think we've talked with them much about
And I believe
the
that
recreational aspect of our fields.
Sure, and my understanding is similar to Ken's, that the maintenance of those types of systems would not qualify, but I can't say specifically.
But if you have to build a new softball field.
Right.
Would they be willing to help you do that under Parks and Rec?
We probably have to go back to Lori and to John Campbell on questions like that, in terms of, what's in, what's out.
I think you can bring Scott into it too, because he has the rec department underneath his domain.
But I'm, in the context of CPA funds and the planning department, et cetera, I think, where does that all rattle around in there?
I just think it's time to talk about it.
Discussion to be had.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So we brought up a few questions. If you guys can funnel them back to me, I'll sift it out to the team
Certainly.
in the coming days and weeks. A lot of food for thought, a lot of things to chew on,
Absolutely.
but thank you all.
Thank you for the time.
Okay.
We appreciate the
We
opportunity.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thoughtful
Nice
questions.
job.
Good. All right. Next item, finance update. Jason?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Okay, so there's 3 bullet points under my finance update. The first is the FY26 budget update, and if, in case anybody watched it, there was a select board meeting last night where the classification meeting was held, and typically the milestone that we face for the classification hearing is getting our tax rate set for the next year. And, the chief purpose of the classification hearing is to decide whether to shift the tax rate between commercial, industrial, and residential, and that decision was made to maintain a single tax rate last night. So we've submitted all our paperwork to the state, so it's just a matter of days probably till the tax rate is certified, and we can send our tax bills out for the current year. The reason that that's important, it's basically as an accounting event, it's the date that the original budget is set for 26, so that's the basis by which all the 27 budgets will be compared to is what was approved within the tax rate. There's some small modest adjustments made to the operating budget based on debt service, the regional retirement assessment, and these were things that can be adjusted outside of a legislative body vote, which is town meeting. Town meeting appropriates money, but we're legally required to pay our debt. So if there's an increase in the debt budget that's required for us to pay our debt, we can add that to the recap as a result of, we went to a bond last year. We estimated 4.25% for about 2 years. We were estimating 4.25% in our projections. When we actually went out to the market, it was 4.35%. So we raised about another $70,000 within the budget for that. There was, we don't know our state assessments that offset our state aid that comes in. We got more state aid revenue than we projected at town meeting, about $111,000. But on the other side of it, there is about $20,000 to $30,000 additional in state assessments that we have to pay net of the state aid that we receive. So those adjustments can happen without town meeting voting on it. So those happen through the tax rate setting process. So that's why that's an important milestone to get past. The other thing that happened last night at the select board meeting was the select board voted to support the free cash plan that we put forward to them, which involved using $3.8 million to apply toward the capital plan. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. But then we can really start looking at, it's helpful for a planning perspective so we know how much resources we're talking about allocating within the resources that we have available to us, current resources, and anything additional would have to be considered as either debt or, as was suggested, a large-scale project could be proposed as a debt exclusion, and that would be important for the town to consider it as a debt exclusion rather than just being additional debt. And I'll talk about the 27 budget update. We laid out some of the conditions behind the 27 budget last night as well. I've sent out very lengthy memos to everybody by email. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. They didn't make it to the packet, but
The emails have.
the emails have reached people, and they've made it to various venues. So I trust everybody's had an opportunity to see them. The 27 budget, obviously, we laid this out at the summit. The message is virtually the same as what we delivered at the summit. Was it's going to be a very tough budget year to create an operating budget that falls within the limits of Proposition 2.5. So as you can see, some of the greater budget increases that the schools are facing. Health insurance is another one. After the 18% health insurance increase last year, we've went through a process where we went out for an RFP to select a new health insurance consultant. We met with our new consultants today, actually had a kickoff meeting, and the original consultant was a respondent to the RFP, so we did evaluate them carefully, and we did change course and went with a different consultant going forward. So it's the first time we've worked with a new health insurance consultant, and they seem to be a professional, and I have high hopes for them providing us good consulting. We changed the model from being a broker to being a consultant that's going to work on our behalf, so that it's clear that the incentives are there, that they're working for us rather than being a broker for the insurance company and being paid on the back end from premiums. So hopefully that model will help, that transparency will help with the health insurance process in the future. So again, the big point of the 27 budget update was getting to the point where we know how much resources we have. As we've seen, we laid out some projections for future debt, and the town has a debt policy whereby the town has chosen as a policy to not seek to have debt service on an annual basis not be more than 10% of the operating budget. And some of those projections that we looked at, if we take the capital plan and fund everything with debt, we could be very close to the debt projections, especially we've since increased the estimate for the Peaslee School. That's the most significant construction project. When we've begun working with an OPM, the feasibility studies going along. The town's been invited into the MSBA process for that. We've just recently selected the architect, and I was part of the design review panel that chose the architect that we're working on a contract with now. So the estimate for that project was anywhere between $40 and $120 million. So it's a wide range. And
A couple
So-
of tractor trailers.
so we're trying to model the worst case scenario, which was that $120 million was the estimate used. And we previously had $100 million that, with the town share being 50, I think we'll do the projection, assuming the town share would be 70 million. And
Has
see,
that discussion have you had a discussion of what that looks like, the 40 to 120? Are you talking about an ad rent? Are you talking about a new build? Are you talking about reconfiguring?
there's various options. Yeah, there's reconfigurations being considered. That's being considered through the feasibility
Okay, so,
project. Yeah, there's talk about grade reconfigurations, and the size of the building would be very dependent on whether, the schools are reconfigured and in town.
so there could be some capital costs that would be high to help us with operational costs down the line.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
would say
think
that.
that would be a fair.
I
that-
would.
I think that would be a fair statement, yes.
I know it would.
So that's basically, I've updated the capital plan with all the requests that we've had so far. There's
Okay.
a couple little tweaks I need to make as a result of seeing what Keith presented tonight, but I didn't have the updated rolling average number for enrollment. I have 61.2 in this number, but it's 61.26, so I need to update that. But the other thing would be the Z-School roof, but
Did you like the architect that you selected for the Peaslee School project?
yes, so, not to belabor or go on too much on a tangent, but being part of that design review panel was very interesting. It was very rewarding to be part of it, because I've never
Good.
done that before with MSBA. So through that process, when they were saying that the MSBA has their own people that they've pre-vetted and so forth, they did that for the Peaslee School as well. So if we're going to collaborate with them, they want us to use somebody that they've vetted and are comfortable with. And the OPM went through that process, and I wasn't part of the process of choosing the OPM, but I was for the architect. it was really interesting because at the MSBA, they have 16 people on a panel. 3 of them are from the district. One was myself, one was Becky, and one was a school committee member. So it's interesting when they
You were
say-
outnumbered?
Yeah, so it's interesting when you see the votes come through. We all would rank proposals, and there's 13 people making that choice from the state level where your local district has three votes. But I think the scenario could come by, like, none of the district would want a particular consultant or architect, and you could end up with somebody that you didn't want. But we did end up with the one that, coincidentally, it was the first choice of the people from.
That's really good to hear.
district. So, the good news was they were all, we looked at, so there's 2 steps to that. We looked at proposals from 5 different architectural firms. They all looked great to me. They looked, some looked a little bit better than others, and then we narrowed that to 3 and interviewed 3 later on, when the choice was made that day after we saw the interviews with the 3 that it was narrowed down to, and any one of them would have been good. If we got the one that we liked the least. And what's interesting is we all voted independently, but the district, we all had the same ranking, ended up with the same ranking. So I felt like that was like a very good thing to have happened, that it came out that way.
Do you feel that the process itself streamlines it for people like yourself, where you're not having to read a bunch of referrals, recommendations over companies because they've been vetted by the MSBA?
Yeah, I think so. I would say so. It saves a lot of effort from us that may not be. There's architects, other professionals that are on this panel that know what they're looking at a lot of times.
So
I
we're
felt
understanding
good
what
about-
we're getting for the value of working with MSBA. They actually do a lot of the legwork for us that we as novices would not know.
Correct, yeah. So one of the people on the panel was, there's a retired architect. There was, of the 13 people, there was the facilities manager from a very large town was on the panel as a volunteer. And, they ask very good questions. They're very knowledgeable on the systems that the subcontractors are going to be designing and so forth as part of the project. But I think it was a very, very, very formal process, but very rewarding to be part of it.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for
But
doing
anyway,
it.
working through, assigning a contract, that's the next step of that. So that's moving forward. And, so we'll have to look at the debt projections relative to increasing the amount of that project overall. And then how much room in our debt policy would we have for further debt beyond just the fire station and then what's authorized now.
Okay.
Yeah, just if I can, I want to go back to the school department's capital request. I'm not sure if I heard it right, but we're grouping everything together as one request? Because I feel some of the items they were talking about were definitely maintenance items. We should not be paying capital, using capital money on it.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that we have the ability to say, no, I don't agree with that, yes, I agree with that, not just one number totalizing everything.
Are you talking about at the regional level or at the K through 8 level?
Both, I guess.
Well, we're just being assessed for the projects. We're not really being asked to vote on the projects. We receive an assessment, right?
The mechanics of the regional projects would be that those are their pay-as-you-go capital projects, so we would not be approving each one of those. The vote would be for the regional assessment, which includes the operating budget, includes their.
That's for the regional school, but on the town schools, right?
We'll still do
Because
Maybe
individual.
individual articles.
We're,
yeah.
we're doing individual, right? We're
I
not,
would-
it's just not
We
one
are,
all.
right? We're, yes,
Okay.
we're-
Yes.
All right.
we're going to vote on each one by the merits, probably use our prioritization list again and go forward that way unless
Well, I've
we
made it
hear
clear that I feel some of that
otherwise.
stuff is maintenance, and maintenance shouldn't be part of our
I agree
costs.
with you.
We bring it back to the discussion,
Okay.
and we
Thank you for the
vote
clarification.
accordingly.
I mean, I think as we move on, we do need to ask people, are you willing to look again? What would you defer? Because we're not going to have the money
Right.
to pay for everything, and it would be so much smarter if they could kind of have some input instead of us telling them.
Right.
I'd rather not. I would like it to be a collaborative exercise and not a battle.
Yeah, yeah. 15.6 million in potential capital projects, so half of which is the big gorilla.
Just really quick too, like, for anything that's like an operational efficiency project, like, I'd really appreciate if we could just see like a payback period on that, because like the lighting thing, it's gonna pay for itself in 3 years. If we don't do it, we're gonna end up spending that money over 3 years instead. And then for every out year, for the useful life of that, fixture, we're gonna be spending more.
Yeah,
I think it just helps tell a story. It would be nice if we could just get some of that on a piece of paper.
If they had
I
done the
agree.
lighting project 5 years ago, it probably would have been 100% paid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. it would've
Because,
been
now it's,
100%.
they're slowly weaning everybody off it, because you should have done it already,
Yeah.
right? So
exactly.
it's like delaying those things is a mistake.
When it has, yeah, if it has a payback period, it's pretty easy to define within the useful life of the,
Yeah.
capital request, like, let's get it out there and make it apparent. Let's not just put it out there as like, that looked like it was a pure expense, but it's not.
I think as we get to articulating each of these capital requests in what's going to be our report, we've got some narrative that addresses that.
We'll ask you, write that narrative that, for the reasons.
Well, I don't have the numbers behind any there.
No, but
Yeah.
you get what I say.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, yeah. I just like specific numbers, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Am I hearing it correctly? No one has said that we are not taking on any debt this year. No decision like that has been made, is that correct?
Not a definitive one.
All right, but it's been talked about, right? So we don't know where we're going with that at this point.
Correct, yeah, so, again, large projects in our financial policies generally call for them being funded with a debt exclusion. So
And
I
are
think
you and
that,
Stephanie interested in hearing from us, or are you going to just decide free cash for this, borrowing for this, or would you like some input from us? Or will you, because usually it's just standard, the decision is made, free cash for this, borrowing for this. How are you guys going to play that one out this year?
sorry, that's a good question, but can I go back
Oh,
to
sure.
what Ryan was saying? We tried to craft our budget instructions to capture some of those factors, like, and that's an important point, is using the capital plan to leveraging the capital plan to save in the operating budget in the future and do that. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of these facilities costs and these facilities projects that are coming forward, is we now have a facilities manager here in the town that's helping us assemble some of these costs, because maintaining the buildings to have a longer useful life is going to be important, because of, as we're seeing, the cost for renovating or building a new building for a town department. But we'll try to refine our instructions going forward with being very explicit about what would be the payback period, because I hear the same thing that you do when you hear about an energy efficiency project, or like making a roof solar ready so that we can start bringing
ROI.
down the operating budget for some of these costs, that, like utility costs especially. So I just wanted to make that point, was that there was an intent of grabbing that information and assembling it in our documents, but we'll find the payback, we'll put that in the instructions in the future to, define your payback period, to, if there is one.
That's
Yeah,
smart.
and I think we just need to give them instructions too on how to calculate some of the stuff, because like getting tripped up over the price for delivery and megawatt hours, like, that's gonna happen. The only variable that changes is how many megawatt hours you use. Like, you can't control the price of that stuff, but we're either gonna use more or we're gonna use less.
Yeah.
And the multiplication still goes out the same, so.
Great points.
And
Oh,
then-
and in terms of that, yeah, we would be seeking, we want to work together on this in terms of developing where we're paying for what source from. So aligning, we only have $3.8 million of free cash to apply toward, $9 million worth of projects. So as a recommendation, again, the decision seems to be moving toward recommending a debt excluded debt for the roof project,
Yeah.
the large roof project. And then there's not a large funding gap, so we're pretty close to having
Okay.
a tangible funding plan for the capital plan for this year.
Okay, sounds better.
Any public comments at this point? I don't see any hands raised. I see Mr. Rogers out there, but going once, going twice. Sold. Okay, next item. Any other business? So we have some future meeting dates. The police department meeting got bumped. Any further feedback from the chief on potential date there, Jason?
I just haven't looked at the calendar yet with
Okay.
him about when he could come.
All right, so really, the next meeting we've got scheduled is the planning department and the CPC on December the 9th. And DPW, water and sewer facilities, December 16th. And that last one is, he's got a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts. So that'll be a lengthy discussion with Mr. Charpentier.
So for the
9th and the
CPC
16th.
discussion,
Brian?
Like what type of, is it a Tuesday or a Thursday?
The 9th, they're Tuesdays, they're both Tuesdays,
All right.
sorry.
so for the CPC discussion, I think I'll send an email to them to have them be prepared to discuss what projects would be appropriate to bring forward to them in the future in
Right.
terms of, I know the CPA functions as somewhat like a grant where it can't supplant your operating expenses with the CPA. So
Maybe a ball field,
You can build a
maybe,
ball
maybe,
field.
yeah.
maybe build that ball field.
Well, I mean, that's the type of discussion I think we want to have with John and with Lori, but yeah.
Definitely.
We're going to need to potentially put in another date to get feedback from the people
Yes, for sure,
about the roof.
for sure, yeah.
Okay.
So, again, based on what they've indicated, I would presume by the time we meet with planning on the 9th, we should have some indication of where they are, based on what Greg had mentioned. So again, in the next couple of weeks, so, after Thanksgiving, before
I don't
Christmas.
think we can give a date yet until they know what they're doing.
I know, but
No, I'm
he's
just saying.
giving us a rough idea.
Yeah.
So in terms of expectations.
What I'm trying to say is I don't think we're going to really be finished by the Christmas
Christmas.
holidays. We're going to jump in here in January and get a couple of other dates, and I'm sure.
We're going to have to, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know,
At
that's
least
just
we got,
life.
we got an early start. We had a little bit of hustle with the White Cliffs project, but we've got a lot of that kind of buttoned down. So that's good.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting at 8:07.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Need a roll call vote?
They're all here.
I think it was
Adjourned.
unanimous.
Adjourned, thank you. One more thing after, we're done.